Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge. Today, I am joined by a friend, Benson, and Benson is with Privy. And Privy is new, relatively, and it is a tool that helps real estate investors. And I learned about it just the other day, and Benson has been telling me about it for a couple of weeks now. So I really just wanted to bring Benson on the show, learn more about Privy, what it does, how it works, and why somebody would be interested in using it, right? What value is this tool creating? So we're going to talk about that today. Welcome, Benson. Benson, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, David. I really appreciate the invitation. It's been great chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit over the last few weeks. Stoked to be here.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show, Benson. So I am appreciative of you. I'm grateful for your time. I know you're really busy. So I was just looking to do a quick demo today, right? Tell us what it is, how it works, and why somebody would be interested. Now, we are going to be doing some screen sharing here. However, this is also a podcast, right? So I'm going to do my best to kind of narrate some of the things that you may be doing in the event that we're not explaining. So I'll definitely help you with that. But let's just start with what it is. So what's going on, man? You got a software called Privy?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Privy didn't just develop because we wanted to create some cool software that we could sell to people, right? So I'm an investor. I'm an agent in Denver, Colorado. I've been in the business for like 18 years. And back down during the last downturn in the market, my business partner and I, his name's Scott Fall, we were working in the same REO office. And what we found was that the process of finding and analyzing deals is mostly manual. It's really tedious and monotonous, and it just sucks your time. You can sit behind your computer, and next thing you know, it's past lunch and you haven't gotten anything done. And that's even being an agent and having access to MLS, right? So just the comping alone was just crazy. And we had all these investors who were like relying on us for everything. And we're like, man, how do we get investors more involved in the process? How can we get them to be able to be confident in the numbers and be able to pull the trigger on a deal when they see a deal because they actually know what a deal is and they're not relying on me as an agent to tell them every little thing. And so Privy was really born out of that process of realizing that there's got to be a better way, right? Manual work wasn't great. And this is about the time that the MLS was creating what's called RETS. RETS is like this standard where they basically created everything, all the data to be standardized so that vendors like us could build these products. And we were one of the very first launch programs here in Denver to do that. But what it's enabled us to do is build an amazing platform that agents can use, investors, hard money lenders. We've got some really weird use cases of people who just want data for different things. And we automate a lot of the tedious tasks of finding deals, running comparables, tracking investor activity, which we found kind of accidentally by using comping algorithms. We realized like, oh shoot, we can see what other investors are actually doing. We don't just have to go and learn about that at the local RIA or just learn by doing. We can actually say, show me every fix and flip in Philadelphia where they bought it, fixed it up, and sold it and made at least $100,000. And then we can say, shoot, well, what did they do to that house? We can see the before pictures, the after pictures, what they bought it for, sold it for, timelines like construction period, days on market. So putting all of that into the system turned out to be really great education because most of the education that's out there is theoretical, right? I mean, I know you're a great coach, but can you really teach a student like what to buy a property for in San Diego and what to sell it for, right? Because you're not on the ground. And so our platform basically gives them that on the boots on the ground education that isn't available through normal means. And that was an accidental benefit to us building the platform that is just like spot on for comping and finding deals.
Man, I love it. What's the website?
The website is getprivynow.com.
And Privy is
Pri-
Privy. So
Privy. Yep.
getprivynow.com. Okay. Very cool.
So it's like you're privy to information, right? Like they always say, well, I'm not privy to that. And that's what we wanted it to be, is like, okay, you got like the insider knowledge, right? The average investor out there is doing things the old fashioned way. They're beating the streets or knocking on doors, doing bandit signs. And then they're going to, like Zillow to pull comps, right? And, in a pinch that could work. And, I do this, and investors are entrepreneurs, right? We're notorious for cutting corners and trying to do everything manually and saving money on stuff that we shouldn't save money on. So, Privy, it kind of helps fill some of those gaps to help investors be more structured, and instead of just doing it like a hobby, like actually having a legitimate business tool that they can use every day to help them execute their strategies.
Man, I love it. It's very cool. So do you guys do on market and off market, or is it just one or the other?
It's everything. So, obviously everything that's not on market's off market, right? And not every property that's off market is for sale, right? So you have to figure out a way to find those motivated sellers through, distressed situations that are publicly recorded typically, right? So foreclosures, absentee owners, vacancies, the tired landlords, properties that have liens on them. So those are some of the kinds of things that investors go after. And we've got that in our system as well. But even if you had the best kind of lead generation tool to bring you these off-market leads, you still got to figure out what that thing's worth in its current condition, what it's going to be worth after it's fixed up, right? The after repair value.
Right.
And then, I believe that comping, that process of analyzation, it's more of an art than it is a science. It's really difficult to teach somebody how to do that. They really have to do it by learning, or learn it by doing it. But we've baked a lot of that philosophy and process into our system, and we're using that real-time MLS data to do that comping. So you enter an address into our system, it builds a comparative market analysis with all the property details, the real-time comparables. It shows you all the fix and flips in the neighborhood that are comps of that subject. And so you can say, well, my house, I can get it for 100 grand. The house down the street just sold for 250, and I can see what they bought it for, sold it for, the before and after pictures. It's really easy for me to connect the dots on how to turn that house for 100 grand into the 250 one, because the house down the street just did it. And I've got a blueprint now, and I can follow that blueprint to get to that same value and make maybe similar margins.
Got it. So is this an education platform? I'm confused.
It is, but it's an accidental one. It isn't, we're not teaching, like we don't have courses. We're not selling a course on how to do real estate investing. The education comes from looking at what other investors are already being successful with in your target market.
Got it.
And part of the education is realizing which markets to target at all. So maybe you're in a crappy market like I am in Denver, and maybe I want to continue to invest, but how do I decide if I should put my money into Las Vegas or Dallas or Chicago? I don't know that. And then some of the things you see out there is like, you look at, job rates, you look at unemployment, you look at economic activity, growth. And yeah, I mean, but how do you even really make a decision off of that? Where you really can make a decision on is, are investors in that market having success? Are they making money? We can show you that. And you don't have to be an economist to figure that out. You're just looking at like, okay, here's a bunch of fix and flips that are getting done. This is where I can go. And if I find a deal, I know that I can prove ARV because there's a bunch of fix and flip activity there. And I don't have to be a rocket science to be able to figure it out, because if this house is a similar size, similar bedrooms and bathrooms, and I've got a comping algorithm that's doing the majority of the lifting, at that point, it's just putting together a simple strategy and essentially reverse engineering the process. And this might be too far, but there's Stephen Covey has the 7 habits of highly effective people. The second habit is begin with the end in mind. And I apply that to real estate, whereas don't just have shiny object syndrome. Don't just chase all these leads. Don't just call people randomly. Don't just blast Facebook ads based off of like convenience or what's familiar. Reverse engineer the process. Find out where investors are having success, what they're having success doing, and then reverse engineer that process back and create a strategy to target those areas so you have a similar level of success.
Love it. That's awesome. I agree with everything you said. Very cool. Well, show us Privy. I'm curious to see, some of the actionable items that this tool can be used to help you. So you had said that it's like kind of an educational platform, but it's really a data platform, right? But you can use the data to educate yourself about, what investors are buying properties at, what they've sold them for, how long it took. And then obviously it sounds like it's giving you gross profit as well in there. So you kind of have to factor in, what they may spend, I guess, by looking at the pictures, so on and so forth. But other than just the comparables, or just, pulling like flip data, what else does this thing provide? Is it a comping platform?
Yeah, it's a comping platform. So in many of the markets that we're in, we've got real-time MLS data. So we're actually going to have MLS data in every major city in the US. We're currently in about 25 different states, but we're layering that in. But we've got a national database of all of the public record data, listing information, sold data, so that you can find a property in Billings, Montana, or in Chicago, Illinois, right? You can basically do business wherever you want to. But again, what I would like people to consider is that there's a better way of searching for and finding deals. It isn't just based off of, where you live or where you work or what's convenient. It should be based off of where can you get the best return on investment for your time, but also your money. Is it in your own backyard? If it is, well, you're fortunate, but it might be a completely different market. Your exit strategy might not work in your city, right? So maybe you have to either change your exit strategy, tweak your approach, or do it someplace else. And before, doing stuff remotely like that would have been an extremely, big challenge for a lot of people. But COVID has been kind of a forcing function for lots of people. And they're not realizing, like, well, shoot, I've been doing everything virtually for the last year. Maybe I can actually do real estate virtually too, right? So we're leveraging that. And what's funny about it is we've been doing virtual for 8 years, right? That's how long we've been in the business. And so it's just like the people are finally catching up with it. I think we were a little bit ahead of our time, right? People are like, I can't do a deal in Kansas City. It's a half mile or a half a world away. How am I going to do that? Well, with the data, you can do it. So right here, I'm showing you on the map the hottest areas to invest in the entire US. So the size of this circle is an aggregation of multiple fix and flip deals, right? Now, not everybody's doing fix and flip, right? But ARVs is what we're using this data for. So if you're looking at fix and flip, wholesale, BRRRR, even just traditional rentals from a buy and hold perspective, oftentimes do better in a fix and flip activity area because values are going up. You get better appreciation in those areas. You can get better rents in those areas. Rents will appreciate or go up faster in high investor activity areas than they do in other parts of town. So leveraging this data can really help you make better decisions on everything you do. But for those of you that have exit strategies that are dependent upon after repair value, this is even more important. So let's say, for example, one of the areas right here that looks hottest is right here, is Chicago, right? 1,011 deals, actually it's including this, have been completed in the last 12 months where they purchased it, fixed it up, and sold it, and the value went up at least 25%. Now, why 25%? It's just a way of identifying what a fix and flip deal could be. In Denver, literally people are going up to like 82% of ARV on flips, right, that they're doing, right? And that's where I think like part of the education comes from our system, is that teaching people the reality of the market. A lot of the gurus, quote unquote gurus, teach people like they have to get stuff at 30 and 40% to do a wholesale deal, where if you're in a market like Denver, you could literally pick something up at 75% and still give it to somebody who would do that fix and flip and have a 5% margin there that you could use for an assignment fee. So again, it's dependent upon the market. Now, you wouldn't want to do that in a place like Chicago. Like, you probably need to get it at 50 to 60% of ARV to make enough room there for the end buyer to be happy and for you to make your assignment fee. But again, it's all that market intelligence. Market intelligence could be the key from an investor having some success or completely failing. Okay. So right here, as you can see, there was a hot bed of activity here in this area. Now, we've got all the before and after data on these flips. So we can see what they bought it for, what they sold it for, how much money they made. And you can get a sense here of how up to date the information is. Like, this thing literally just closed yesterday. So let's pop this property open. These are all the matches. These are the properties that were fixed and flipped and went up in value. Now, whenever you open up a property inside of Privy, our system automatically comps it out using the comping algorithm. And so this is based off of real-time data. It's not coming, we're not scraping it from the internet or getting it from some third party. This is the same data that an agent and an appraiser uses in that same city. You talked about the off-market situation. Like, this property right here, we can know this is cash buyer. We know that this person this property is corporate owned, so it's an LLC that paid cash for this property. When we scroll down here on the CMA, this is the comparative market analysis. So these are all the comparables. So we use all the major property characteristics to comp this property out. That, again, I used to have to do manually as an agent. That's even having MLS. The average investor doesn't even have that. So it all happens in real time. We got all the rental data. We've got the real sales data here. And then we show you the before and after. So this house right here was acquired for $58,000 in January. It was an off-market acquisition. They sold it for $245,000. And over here on the right is the actual after photos. Now, if they had acquired it on market, we'd have all the before photos here. But since this was an off-market acquisition, we show you the street view. So 258 grand, sold it for 245. Now the investor can see exactly what kind of construction they did, what kind of materials, where's the bar been set for that particular neighborhood. That oftentimes is a problem that it faces investors that paralyzes them on not pulling the trigger on a deal. If you're doing wholesale, sure, this is great information to share with your buyers list when you're marketing that deal that you have, when you can say the house down the street, this is what they bought it for, this is what they sold it for, here's how much money they spent, or this is how much money they grossed. One thing we don't have, David, and you mentioned this earlier, is we don't know what they spent, right? There's no database currently that exists out there that will allow us to know what people spent, but we can estimate some stuff by looking at the before and after pictures. We can also look at the increase in square foot. We can use price per square foot as a rule of thumb to help estimate some of that. But then we have other things like, the construction period. They were in and out of this property, David, in 44 days. Like, that is fast, right? That's a fast project. So these people were operators. And then you can see all the photos here to see exactly what they did. Then we come down even further. And since this house just closed yesterday, we know who the buyer was. So if you're a wholesaler and you want to find the best area to invest, well, number one, you go to the area where buyers are buying. You look at the area, so you have comps in this area, so you can actually prove after repair value on any sort of properties that float out of your off-market marketing. So this is where this area that I circled, this is where you would want to do your off-market marketing. This is where you would send your mailers. This is where you would knock on doors or do your Facebook ads. Like, you can leverage the zip codes in here to tweak some of your other marketing campaigns that might be more digital. But Remergence LLC, they're the buyer. This is now a buyer who is executing on deals. They're not just some email you collected off of a Facebook group or somebody at the local REIA that gave you a business card and said that they're a buyer. This is somebody that's closing deals right now. So instead of targeting those other people who may or may not be doing deals, Remergence is a company to want to go after, right? Now, we don't have skip tracing in our system currently. We're actually working on it. So we're going to have skip tracing, SMS marketing, the ability to send out mailers to all our market leads, and other kind of marketing aspects. But what's cool about this Remergence now is that, like, you've heard of the buy box, right? Like their criteria. Mm-hmm. Well, their criteria is what you're looking at. You're basically looking at what their criteria is. So you can call Remergence up and say, hey, Mr. Buyer, I saw you just close that house on Forest Avenue. Man, it looks amazing. I love the way you guys did the kitchen. I'm an investor and I often wholesale deals. If I find something in the 60628 zip code, can I send it over to you? And they're going to be like, heck yeah, right? So that conversation is way easier when you leverage the data and you actually go in looking like you know what you're talking about, right? And that works for even beginners. Even a beginner can come in and sound experienced by just leveraging the data. So you're much more knowledgeable and you're leading with information that's going to help you open up that door, and they're not wondering, who is this person? And then of course we got all of the here's the foreclosure information. So this house was in foreclosure last year. We know that it was vacant. We got all the trustee information. So you can build a really good strategy on targeting some of these off-market deals, as well as, lots of people are interested in mortgage information. If they got this mortgage in 1998, right, and it's 360 months loan, like they're getting close to paying this thing off, right? This is probably a property that would have a lot of equity. And if you were going in and you're going to try to negotiate a deal with them, you don't have to worry about them, saying, well, I can't do a deal with you because we owe more on the house than it's worth, when you know what the mortgage balance is.
Yeah,
right.
the mortgage balance helps a ton. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great little feature. Next, it looks like you got tax information, like what the property taxes are, when they were paid last, so on and so forth. So you have a ton of different data in here. And I see where when you said earlier that it's kind of an educational platform, it can be, because you're able to go in, you're able to see what's been flipped recently, you're able to see what they paid for it, what they sold it for, and then before and after pictures of those particular properties, assuming that it was listed on the before. Again, there's going to be some things that aren't out there, right? So you got to work around those. However, the ability to see this perspective is really, really cool. Benson, I like it, man. This is really neat.
Yeah. And it gives you more insight too. And like we talked about off market, right? A lot of investors are focusing on that as a source of deal flow. And, when we can show you that there's 33 absentee owners in this area, we got cash buyers here, corporate owned, 13 vacant homes. And those are of just these matches, just the ones we're looking at. I could run another search where you could say, show me every property in the area that's vacant. But now you're targeting the specific area because the investor activity's there. That way, if something pops up and you can make a connection with that motivated seller, the comps are there. So it's going to be easier for you to prove ARV, as opposed to like just, letting your marketing lead you to where to go. Like, let the data lead you to where you market, and then you go there, and then it's easier for you to prove value. And so here's these other filters up here. So we could have added that filter in right from this section here, which I didn't talk about a lot earlier, but this is a little bit more complicated, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but you could say, just show me cash buyers in an area, just show me the tired landlords. There's going to be a lot of those coming soon because of the moratoriums. Like, that is definitely an area where I think a lot of investors should consider focusing some effort on, is absentee owners and tired landlords, which is absentee owners that have owned a property for a long period of time. Also zombie properties. These are vacant homes that are absentee owners. So those, if there's nobody in them, they're not making any money. They have no money to offset a mortgage if they have to pay that every month. Even if they own a free and clear cash, they're going to be motivated to sell because they're not generating any revenue off of that property if it's vacant.
And that's a good point. So all absentee owned properties are not vacant. However, all vacant houses are absentee owned, right? And a zombie property is both. It's a vacant and an absentee. I like it. So you got different filter options in here. And again, not everybody that's going to be listening to this is going to be able to see our screens here, but we've done a pretty good job of explaining, what the software does and how it can help. And it's pretty slick. So it's nationwide data, right? Right, Benson?
Nationwide.
And
if you don't mind, can I take this one step further?
Sure. Because
I said that this is a hot area and you should be targeting your marketing here. Don't forget that in areas where you have high investor activity, you can actually do more on-market deals too. So we created basically a 3-click process to be able to find deals, leveraging what we call our quick deals bar. So right here, these are all those properties there. All I need to do is click this green button right here. And now our system is going in and it's looking for active deals that I can buy right now that have similar margins.
On the market?
On market.
Okay.
Now I'm going to tweak this a bit because we're in Chicago. In this button right now, it's set at 75% of ARV, but in Chicago, I know we can find better deals than that. So I'm going to adjust the filter down. So I'm going to lower it to 50. And now this is finding on-market deals that are in this same zone where we know we can get those margins. And it's only showing us the properties that have those 50% margins that we're looking for. So here's a bunch of homes that are available. Here's a property that's for sale for 50 grand. If I pop that property up, it shows us the property details. We scroll down to the comparable table, and we've got a lot of data here that shows us things a deal. Now we know we can buy it for 50. We said we needed it to be better than 50%, that which means we need comps over 100 grand, right? So when I look at the comps here, the closest house that was just flipped went for 165. This one went for 117. These are comps. These aren't just other properties in the area. These are comparables. And then we can open up, let's say we open up this one on Parnell, and then now we got a blueprint on exactly what we need to do to our house to get to this same 117 mark. So even if you're conservative and the value is only 117, 120, you're still at like 40% of the ARV. This could be a wholesale deal, right? If you can get something at 40%, could you wholesale that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Likely, right?
Right.
And so, and this is another thing that's kind of a misconception within the investor community, is that you can't wholesale on market. You absolutely can. I know you don't do a bunch of them. I know you're mostly off market, David, but for the investor out there who's looking to creating some more consistent deal flow, and maybe you haven't perfected your marketing formula yet in what you're doing, wholesale some on market stuff, right? It's all about getting the deals out. And if you're newer and you're just starting your marketing, and you're maybe you don't have a whole bunch of money to do mailers and those sorts of things, because there's some cost to most of those, you can literally just write offers, 10, 20 offers a day on stuff just like this that can get you, some decent assignment fees.
I like it, man. I like it. Tell us a little bit about the off market before we wrap up today, Benson.
Yeah, so the off market's right here. So at the top here, we show you all of the different categories of off market. Now, again, these are the matches that have to do with active.
It has to do with your search, right? So if you're searching a city, or you're searching a county, or searching a zip code, or in this case, Benson has actually drawn a circle on the map within a couple of neighborhoods within Chicago. If you're watching, that's what he has done here. If you're listening, so the criteria is obviously going to change depending on what you put in and or how you filter it, right? But once you have your criteria in, it looks like you do have the ability to find vacant homes, and you have the ability to search the off markets, and you can find.
Yeah, let's say we just wanted to switch over. So I unchecked
or pre-foreclosures. So you have a lot of these options as well for the off market side. And I don't necessarily need to look at every one of these. I was just seeing that you have those quick filters, as well as the ability to filter yourself to find the vacant properties. Because we don't do a ton of on market, and I know that we're leaving deals on the table, and that there's deals to be done that way. They're just few and far between for us. That doesn't mean that may not work for other investors in other parts of town, so on and so forth, or even people doing virtual or whatever. But the fact that you have the on market and the off market, I think is really cool. The before and afters, and the ability to find the recent flips, also very, very cool. I like it, man. This is a great software. So again, if you guys are interested to learn more about it, go to getprivynow.com. And Benson, how can people connect with you? How do people connect with you if they want to learn more, or just want to connect with you if they have questions about the software? Are you the owner of it, by the way?
Yeah, I'm one of the owners. So my partner Scott Fall and I are the majority owners, and we've got some other people who are involved that are part of the team that are owners as well, which is cool, because we built it where, if you're owner of something, you are more willing to work hard for it, right? And that's how we kind of structured our company.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so if you want to reach out to me, ask questions, getprivynow.com is our website. You can find out more information there. My email is Benson, BENSON, at teamprivy.com. That's TEAM as in Michael, and then Privy, PRIVY, P as in Paul, RIVY.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And and this is just the tip of the iceberg, David. We're already working on the next phase of new releases. We're adding in a bunch of new data sets. We're going to be adding in more off-market type leads. We're adding in probates and tax sales. We're adding in, I told you before, about skip tracing and the ability to market directly from our system. And then more and more just valuable data. Lots of things come in. Oh, one of the things we're really interested in is helping out those people who are building portfolios. So like more rental data, more rental calculators. So you could search for a property that says, show me every house I can buy in St. Louis that's at a 10% cap rate, right? It'll go out there, run the algorithms, leverage the data to find those properties for you. And then you could make tweaks in the calculator for, well, I'm putting, 20% down instead of 15, or, I think my rent's going to be, 1,200 instead of 1,000. And then you can tweak it and then get your actual cap rates or cash on cash return. And also short-term rentals. So we're looking at bringing in some short-term rental data. So for those that are doing Airbnbs or VRBOs, any of those sorts of situations as well.
Wow, you guys got a lot of stuff already. You're adding a lot of new stuff. I'm gonna have my eye on you guys. I intend to jump in and start playing with the system and learn it, because it seems like it's very cool. It's already got a lot of great functionality, but you're even adding more super cool functionality. You had stated earlier that you're already in, you have MLS data currently for 25 states, and I'd imagine you guys will be expanding that nationwide at some point down the road here in the next couple of weeks or months too, as well, right?
Oh yeah, we've got data contracts out in, I think, 30 or 40 new MLSs.
Nice.
So every major city, like all of the, all of the capitals and larger cities are already in the works. And now we're adding in some of those kind of tertiary or tier markets. These are places like
how many
Mobile,
MLSs are there? When I
Alabama.
looked a couple years back, this is probably 5-6 years ago, I think there was 740-ish
There's over 600.
different
So a
MLS
lot of them are
zones in the
combining.
United States. Yeah, it's kind of nuts, man. But it's cool that there's guys like you that are being able to aggregate all that data, because it's helping people, especially those that are virtual and or want to learn. I think my favorite tool is the ability to search the flip comps, not only to see what they did, but see what the gross margins are, but also to see who the buyer was and what they paid. Therefore, if you get a deal in that area, you can contact those buyers and or know what they paid. So if you're wholesaling, you can go in even lower, and or if you're a rehabber, see what the other rehabbers in the area are doing, see what their gross margins were, look at those before and afters to see what they did. And you can even kind of copy and steal materials, not steal, you know what I'm saying, but like copy what they did. That's the whole point, right? Nothing's new at this point. It's all just somebody's doing what somebody else did. But if you can find somebody that's doing it successfully, why not copy what they did? And maybe that means you can go make 20 or 30 or 40, $1,000 on the actual flip. So Benson, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you.
I have been wanting to learn more about this, because I know you've been telling me, Dave, you got to check this out. And it was really cool that you were able to give me the demo today.
Yes.
And I plan on jumping in myself here and using this tool to help find buyers and flips and anybody that's new. I think this is a really great place to start. If you're wanting to have a comping tool and or, do some market research, as well as figure out where you need to be buying in certain areas. Like, what are the other investors paying? This will actually show you that stuff. So again, Benson, I can't thank you enough for your time today. Thanks for coming on. Guys, if you want to connect with Benson, you can email him directly, benson@teamprivy.com. Or if you want to go check it out for yourself, go to getprivynow.com, and that's GETPRIVYNOW.com. Benson, any parting words for the audience? And again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure. I would just say that one of the big things that's happening right now that not a lot of investors know about is the institutional buyers are really ramping up their game. So like the Open Doors and the Zillows and the iBuyers of the world, but also like these large institutional buyers like BlackRock, Invitation Homes, a lot of the private money or private equity firms. They're going to spend another $20 billion this year. Last year it was only like $55 billion. It's going to be over $75 billion this year on the same properties that you're going after. And so you need an edge. You really need a way to be able to step it up and compete with these big guys, because honestly, we've talked to them. We know their buy box. We know how they're getting and buying properties in volume. You guys, it's with data. It's with technology.
Data, right? I talked to one of my hedge fund buddies yesterday, and he said they bought like 65 houses last month. And I was like, damn. And he's like, yeah, we were trying for 80. So yeah, they got the power, they got the data, they got the money. So yeah, I like that. That's a great point. You need to have an edge, and it seems like Privy will be a great tool to help you have that edge, and or just to make better decisions on the current investments and or the current offers, that you're making already.
Right. Which is the edge, right? Even if it's baby steps, right? If you can do, one more deal this year because you have better information. Like, that's moving you forward, right? Instead of just doing things the old fashioned way. So the game's changing quickly. It really is. And you don't have to do stuff just in your own local market. You don't have to be stuck in one extra strategy. You can diversify, put your stuff into different extra strategies, work with other people, JV, do other markets. The sky's the limit.
I agree. I love it. Guys, if you have not heard of Privy, now you have. GetPrivyNow.com. Check it out. Benson, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I always learn a few things on these episodes, and I learned a ton on this one. And you did a fantastic job of giving me a quick demo, as well as explaining what it is. So again, I just want to say thank you so much, guys. All right, signing off, guys. Until next time, see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy, you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.